Welcome, everybody, to the Mile High Podcast. This is your host, Dr. Daniel Knowles, and I'm grateful for you all to be here with us. Remember, you can listen to the Mile High Podcast on iTunes, on Stitcher, on YouTube, on Facebook, on Libsyn. It is everywhere now. And that also reminds me, the place that everybody is going to be in August is Mile High, August 18th to 21st, www.milehighchiro.org. If you have not registered and booked your hotel yet, do that. And I am very grateful to be here with our incredible guest. She is a very well-known chiropractic leader. She graduated from Life Chiropractic West during her internship with Advanced Chiropractic Care. She learned tremendous amount of growth. She did That's Something coaching. She's known most specifically for the Art of the Specific and the Specific Centers, as well as their office, Specific Center Dublin, and that is the one and only Lacey Book. Welcome.
Well, hello, Danny. I'm super happy to be here on this wonderful Friday rainy day in California.
Is it a rainy day there?
It is a rainy day, but we are welcoming it after our long-term drought, so I'm happy to say it's raining.
Well, it's beautiful and sunny in Boulder. So, it's a top. People think like Boulder's cold and wintry. It's a top-down day. So.
Wonderful. Very nice.
So it's beautiful. And you have been everywhere in chiropractic. We see you everywhere, speaking everywhere, traveling, and doing so much to help chiropractic and chiropractors deliver better work. And I'm so impressed with that. And it makes me smile because I know that we need to have chiropractic return to its mission and its values. And that's part of what we're doing with the podcast with Mile High. So we're grateful for having you also coming out in August. That's going to be outstanding.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And let's start off with something big. You do these incredible mission trips to El Salvador with the Art of the Specific, which I've talked to Dr. Andy Roberts about. I think it's so inspiring. Tell people a little bit about what you do there and why. The why is a big thing.
Yeah, it's just such an amazing thing that we're able to do. It's such a blessing. We go every 6 months down to El Salvador, and we take typically around 20 to 25 doctors along with us. Most all of those doctors have gone through our training program, the Art of the Specific. So when we go down there, we only practice knee chest, which is a wonderful thing because it brings a bunch of people together that are trying to accomplish the same goal and be able to serve a community together. One of the great things about going down there is we've been going down there for such a long time now. We've really established a great relationship with the government and the people of El Salvador. We actually work with the health ministry out there. We work with the medical doctors. We are able to go into hospitals and provide chiropractic care. We're able to go into orphanages and provide chiropractic care, and we're super accepted. And that's what's so neat about it is because chiropractic is not established as a profession out there. There's very few chiropractors out there, so they don't quite know what it is, but they know that it does something great for them.
Right.
And so not only does the government accept it and the medical doctors, but the people are welcoming of us. And they line up out the doors and they're grateful and they're having changes in their health and they're being impacted and they're feeling better and they wait for us to come back the next 6 months. So it's just been an amazing thing. But I think for us, one of the big things is because it's not established as a profession out there. By going out there every 6 months and making an impact, people are starting to ask questions and people are starting to want chiropractic in the country of El Salvador. And that's a huge thing. So our big why is to be able to bring that to the people, to the community, to the country of El Salvador, and hopefully one day have it recognized as a profession.
And that's so amazing. Something that you said, which is really important, is it's not defined as a profession there.
Exactly.
So you get to define it.
Well, I don't think we get to define it. I think chiropractic has already been defined.
Well, I mean, in that community.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely. I mean, I think go ahead.
Well, because we know how chiropractic is defined, but in the U.S., the public doesn't necessarily see it that way.
Absolutely. Right. the public perception of chiropractic has been skewed for a very long time. And I think that's what's great. We get to bring the principles and the philosophy and the art of chiropractic down there. And you're right, be able to show the public what it's truly about without having it, unfortunately, somewhat tainted by this
Right.
altered perception that happens here in the United States.
Which is beautiful because it also lets you know, hey, there's a lot of the world left other than the U.S. and there's lots of subluxated people in those places that need chiropractic care, and so we can expand our vision. And I'm really grateful that the art of the specific people are doing that. I think that's very admirable and amazing. And hope to see more of that happen within chiropractic around the world. Because otherwise it's going to get defined some other way in those places too.
Yeah, it's up, you're right. It's up to us to take it to places and define it the way that it should be defined and show them what true chiropractic is. Otherwise, you're right. People will go out there and not serve chiropractic the way that it should be served, and then we have a repeat of things that have gone awry, right?
Exactly. Now,
Yeah.
let's start a little bit so people get to know you a little bit better, which is that I didn't know this about you, and many people may not, but you worked in many chiropractic offices before becoming a chiropractor. What was that? Tell us about that.
Oh gosh, people always say this, and it's a little cliche, but I'm going to say it anyway. I didn't find chiropractic; chiropractic found me,
Right.
and literally that's what happened. When I was 16 years old, I was working as a bank teller, and I had this amazing lady that always used to wait for me in my line. And one day she came up to me and she just slid her card over and she said, "I want you to work for me." And I was like, "What?" Flipped her card and she was a chiropractor.
Look at that.
And isn't that, I mean, really, it found me and I had no idea what chiropractic was. I had no conception. They were a husband and wife team, amazing individuals, and took me under their wing, and I never looked back. So I've been working in chiropractic for 17 years now, and I love it. I've worked for multiple doctors, multiple techniques. I've worked for high volume offices, slower paced offices, and I've always been the one kind of running the show. My last set of doctors that I worked for, it was three gentlemen. They were fantastic, up in the mountains somewhere, a high volume office, and I had 5 women working under me, and ran the whole office. And one day one of the doctors looked at me and said, "What are you doing? Like, you're on the wrong side of the door. You need to go to school and be a chiropractor." And I kind of went, "I think you're right." And so off I went and ended up at Life West, and the journey continued.
It's so funny. I love hearing how people found chiropractic or how chiropractic found them. And I know it's cliche, but it's so true for so many people. So, and because it's true, it's become a cliche. As a high school student, when chiropractic came into my life, wasn't my stepdad at that time, but Donnie had these pre-care audio tapes. And he had his office, and he had these pre-care, this is what chiropractic, on cassette, right? This is what chiropractic was. And he was his lay lecture, and I took a stack of those, and I was a high school student. I was giving them out to people because
I love it.
Because I was so excited about it as a recipient, and I was giving it to friends in high school. So, and it's so overwhelmed my life at that time. So I know what that's like. Then what was the point, what was it like going from working in a chiropractic office to going to chiropractic school?
It's really interesting because I think when you've been working in chiropractic so long, you already have in your mind what chiropractic is,
right,
what it can do, what it's all about, how you're going to practice. And I will be the first to admit, I went to school a little cocky, thought I knew everything about chiropractic. And when I sat in my first class, it was Philosophy 1. First hour, first day, I had a teacher tell me that in his office he expected nothing less than a miracle.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I don't know that I experienced miracles every day in chiropractic, but when he said that, I knew that that was chiropractic's true potential. And I realized that I didn't know anything about chiropractic
Hmm.
and I had a long journey to go. So it was really interesting making that transition and humbling myself to be able to learn about what it truly was and then go down the pathway that I have now. I mean, so it was, I mean, again, everything is a stepping stone to put you in the right direction, and that was absolutely it. But I did realize that I was still a student today. But
So,
um,
yeah, you know, you're always growing. People are always growing. That's why we do these podcasts, and people go to programs, and I go to programs, and you, because we always want to be growing. We never want to be in the same place. In fact, I think that's one of your favorite quotes, isn't it?
what's that?
That your favorite quote, a comfort zone.
Yes, absolutely. Like everything happens outside of your comfort zone, right? I mean, if you get too stagnant, nothing happens. I mean, we see that in our patients, we see that in our lives, we see that in our relationships.
Right.
So it's always about being outside of your
Right.
comfort zone.
And as I've heard you say, a comfort zone is a beautiful place, but nothing ever grows there. So.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that quote, right? I live my life that way.
Right, exactly. So now I don't know this. When did you discover upper cervical work? Was that in before chiropractic school or after?
No, that was during chiropractic
Okay.
school. So, like, I'm like that perfect patient that walks through the door. I'm going to say this with a disclaimer. I have had 7 car accidents in my life, but I was only driving in 3.
Okay.
You can get in the car with me. It's absolutely okay.
Okay.
Um, but I had had a lot of head injuries. I'd broken my jaw. I went through a passenger windshield. I had a 50-foot tree crush my car. So I had a lot of issues, and chiropractic always helped me feel so amazing and be able to live my life. And when I heard that statement about expecting nothing less than a miracle, I had to figure out what this guy was talking about and what he did.
Hmm.
Well, he just happened to practice knee, chest, upper cervical work.
Hmm.
And so that's when I began that journey, was my first day in chiropractic school. But because I'm always a student, I didn't just laser focus on that. I had always wanted to make sure that I exercised all my options and learned everything about as many techniques as possible. But it's just something I fell in love with. And
Hmm.
I got under care, and a lot of my issues that I had that I was trying to keep at bay ended up resolving through that type of work.
Right.
So for me, it's just what solidified me, and that's why I went that direction, because it had changed my life, and I loved the foundation that it was built upon.
Right. Right. And I'm a huge fan of upper cervical work. I absolutely love it, especially being a Sherman grad. I mean, it was the core of my chiropractic philosophy, clinical thought process, and still is. So
Yeah.
I think it's vital for chiropractors. So that being said, so chiropractor or chiropractic student, what books or what things would you recommend as resources to start learning more about the upper cervical spine? What are some of your favorites?
Well, if you're talking about just the upper cervical spine, I mean, if we're looking at the green books, I mean, I love volume 18. In
Mhm.
fact, my computer is actually being held up by volume 18 as we speak.
So
I love
funny
volume
because
18.
my computer is being held up right now by the chiropractic adjuster D.D. Palmer 1910.
I love it. See, I mean, hey, you know what? My green books are always next to me. They're always at hand. So it's the first thing I grab to lift it up, right? I love it, Danny. That's fantastic. I love Volume 18. Volume 18 is a hard read, though.
Mhm.
So I never suggest that anybody starts there in their green book evolution, because, BJ says in the beginning of that book that you need to read it 3 times to fully grasp what he's saying and what he's portraying. And so it does give you a lot of information. If you're talking about the neurology, Erickson does a great book on upper cervical neurology. You can find that almost in any, I think, chiropractic library or bookstore. A lot of times they'll sell that. There's a lot of research out there on the upper cervical complex. I think for me, the biggest thing is we're doctors of the nervous system.
Right.
Absolutely, that's what we do. And it's not just about learning about the upper cervical spine, it's about understanding the neurology of the body. So researching that, looking into that, finding out about mechanics, Side note, White and Punjabi have a great research article on upper cervical mechanics, biomechanics, so that's a great thing to look at. But really understanding that the neurology of the body, we know a lot more than we did, 50 years ago. And so a lot of the old theories and concepts are out of date.
Hmm.
And, we need to be educating ourselves more on that than anything. That's one of the things that we do in the art of the specific. We go heavily into the neurology. So that's probably my favorite place to learn anything about upper cervical because that's what we teach. But we do basic neurology and then we do an advanced neurology program, and it will blow your mind. It is like drinking off of a fire hose, but it's a lot of information.
Well, so let's help people a little bit with that. What are some of your favorite or things about the neurology of the upper cervical spine that you think are really fascinating, and maybe people that are chiropractors or chiropractic students don't know?
Well, I mean, number one, if you were talking about the most neurological bang for our buck, that occurs in the upper cervical spine. I mean, you know that most of the mechanoreceptors are living up in that area. I can't be quoted on this. I think it's upwards about 80%,
Okay.
and 20% of the rest of it is distributed throughout the rest of the joints. So if we're trying to make an impact, I mean, that's the area to make an impact in the neurology as a whole. I mean, I always just tell my patients that's the area where that brainstem sits, and if we have a misalignment, subluxation in that area, can absolutely impact the neurology in a very, very, very big way.
Right.
What we do in the art of the specific is we look at what's called the disafferentation model. And a lot of people, a lot of chiropractors, a lot of chiropractic students don't fully understand that model yet. But we talk about how that upper cervical complex can create a huge traffic issue in the neurology of the body, creating the body to break down. So we can really look at that area and I guess get that traffic under control because that area is so powerful. So that's definitely a model to research and look into.
Right. And so far we're talking about traffic jams and car accidents. People.
Yes. I'm a California driver. What can I say, And I do go to El Salvador every 6 months. So if you want to talk about traffic jams, we can go down there and I'll show you what that really looks
Well,
like.
I'm a New York City driver. I learned how to drive stick shift in New York City traffic. That was not
Wow.
fun.
That does not sound fun. I know I can drive stick too, and that would not be a good day.
It was a nightmare.
Yes, it sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah, you want to talk about sweating and luckily I did not, hit anything or subluxate anybody in the process. So I might have been emotionally subluxated at the end. I probably was.
Well, so I'm not sure who's going to be driving when we hang out.
Yeah. Well, Colorado's completely different. So,
Absolutely.
especially in August, when beautiful weather. So let's talk more. When people think upper cervical, it's hard sometimes for even chiropractors to get, unfortunately, this concept that you just address these top two bones, or relate that to the public. So let's just start with chiropractors. Like, is it true that upper cervical practitioners, for the most part, or yourself, or in the art of specific, only address these top two bones?
I can't speak for everybody else, but I can definitely speak for the people that are in the specific chiropractic centers. Right now, we have 12 offices, and we're currently opening 4 more.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a very, very strict policy on only adjusting the top 2 bones and nothing else. All of us as a group, hold each other accountable to make sure that that's what we're doing and practicing in our offices. So absolutely 100%, that is all we do. We only adjust the top 2, analyze the top 2, check for subluxations in that area.
And, we have a specific center in Boulder here, Rich Bays, House of Bremer. They're awesome people. I love them.
Absolutely.
And I know a lot of them have a lot of people in the other offices. How about helping the public understand that? How do you help the public understand the importance of that area? And hey, this is our focus.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. People, when you explain it correctly, people absolutely get it. They have an aha moment. I think for us, it's not even even just about adjusting the top two bones. It's the concept of the no adjustment. I mean, and the public does see that and they do understand that. So when we go out there and we're talking about what we do, it's just relating how important that area is to the rest of the body. Oftentimes I use the example of Christopher Reeves.
Right.
As time goes on, people are going to not know who he is as the generations get younger and younger. I've run into that. But oftentimes I use that example. I mean, Christopher Reeves fell off a horse and broke one bone in his entire body. And because of that subsequent swelling and inflammation around that area, he had no function from the neck down. I mean, he couldn't breathe on his own. He couldn't move his big toe, his leg. He couldn't digest. And eventually he died of being sick because his immune system was shot. So on a more minimal level, if we have a slight misalignment or subluxation in that area, again, causing that traffic issue in that upper cervical spine, eventually it leads to lesser things than Christopher Reeves, like asthma or digestive problems or big toe pain or whatever it may be. So by focusing on that area, correcting that subluxation, getting the nervous system clear, functioning, firing, that person has the ability to heal and again, live the life that they want. I mean, so for us, it's just a kind of telling them that in that manner. And then we also talk about how we utilize objective measure in our office. We don't adjust our patients every single time. In fact, our ultimate goal is to adjust people as few times as possible to get them well and get them resolution. And when you tell them that, like what we're looking to do is getting you to hold your adjustment so your body is happy, healthy, and healing. And we do that and we know when to adjust and when not to adjust by utilizing the objective measure, which is the infrared thermography. People begin to understand that concept and they truly get behind it and they get very committed.
Well, and I find personally in practice, the more certainty the practitioner and the team, the more certainty the practitioner and the team have about what you're saying and you're doing in every aspect of your office, from your clinical things to how you run your office procedurally to your finances, the more people are certain about those things, it's easier it is for practice members to grasp on.
Yeah, and you're right. It doesn't matter what technique it is or what you're doing or how specifically you're practicing. It is about the certainty and it is about the results that you get. And when you continually get resolution, when you continually see people get well, you can come from that place of being truly authentic and tell people with certainty that this is going to help them get where they want to go. And I think that our offices all have that within them and people get behind it.
And that is such an important thing, what you said, and I'm going to emphasize it, authentic. Because whatever way a person practices, upper cervical, whole spine, go the whole gamut, if they're not authentic, they're like doing upper cervical work because, we see those people are successful in it, then it's not going to work for them if they don't have certainty about it,
Absolutely. And there's this other component of being a good business person. Let's not forget that. And the chiropractic curriculum doesn't exactly help us in that process. So not only is it coming from a place of being authentic, but it's about being able to easily tell people what you do and how you do it, and get that message across to the public without screaming it at them, right?
Right, exactly. Or them sensing, because they can sense it that you don't have belief in what you're sharing. Because that never works. Or if your team doesn't, have, I'll use this term, don't necessarily have buy-in. I don't mean it as a sales thing, but if your team doesn't have buy-in for what your model of practice is, that it never helps.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about that, because you mentioned instrumentation, and that is one of my favorite things in the clinical area, is just that concept, the conceptual model. I think it's the core of chiropractic, of the person's body being dynamic or being static, and pattern work. Let's talk about that. Talk a little bit about some of the things about thermography and when to adjust that you think are important.
Let me start here first, Danny. I think that, in our offices right now, we use infrared thermography. If there was something that came along that was better to analyze the function of the nervous system, we would absolutely switch. But for us right now, this is the easiest easiest tool to utilize. It gives us the most information. And I don't, for me, it's not about just thermography. I mean, if you want to use and take bilateral blood pressure or spirometry or whatever it is in your office, pupil dilation to analyze if the nervous system has been impacted and is now dynamic and not static, that's absolutely fine. But for us, what we love about the infrared thermography unit is the pattern analysis. We've done a lot of research on it, we study it, and it allows us to effectively understand what's happening in that person's body at any given moment in time. And so I love thermography because it analyzes paraspinal temperature, millions and millions of points, and it produces a pattern, a neurological pattern of dysfunction that a person gets stuck in. And when they're stuck there, we know that the body is not doing what its primary goal is adapting. It's static, it's stagnant. And that means that the person needs some intervention, they need our help, we make the adjustment, Innate does the work, and then the body can begin to heal. But here's what's so great about thermography, and here's why I love it, is it also holds me accountable, right?
Right.
Because it's not just about objectively measuring and knowing when to adjust, but it's also measuring whether or not I did my job and made the correct adjustment at the right time, right place to clear the subluxation and get the nervous system functioning again.
Right.
So for us, it's great.
And I tell practice members all the time that, because I use a range of different instrumentation tools, and sometimes you probably have had this experience, or maybe it's just me, where someone says, well, I don't feel so great today. I don't want to get scanned because maybe it'll be bad or something like that. And I'm like, no, that's when I want to do a reading, because it also tells me how I'm doing. I mean, I use it as a tool to measure,
Exactly.
Yes, your progress, but I also want to use it as a tool to see if I'm being effective or if I have to change my approach or what I'm doing. And unfortunately, most people don't have an objective indicator, and then they're using subjective things like how the patient feels, and that is an important thing, or subjective things as their hands, which is also important. But if you take out any objective findings, then there's a challenge there.
Yeah, I mean, we're chiropractors, but we are human. And, the reality of it is if you're solely dependent on subjective analysis, there's days where you can make a mistake. And if that person's body is healing and their nervous system is clear and you put input into the system when it's not necessary, that case can get away from you, and that case can absolutely get out of control. And then that person may never fully get resolution and get well. And so for us, the objective measure tells us the when to adjust, and there's no guessing.
Right.
I mean, we're able to analyze those scans and absolutely know when we're supposed to intervene and when we're not.
And since we talked a little bit about Green Books, we talked a little bit about Volume 18. Are there any interesting things on relative to instrumentation that you want to share from BJ's work or from any aspect of that?
Well, BJ went down in evolution. Obviously, he didn't use the thermography unit because it wasn't available then. But BJ did use something very similar, and he did pattern work as well. And what was really cool about the pattern work that he did is it would print out on this really, really long paper.
Right.
And he was a master. I can't even imagine having the patience to do what he did, really. But what was really cool about his work is he was far more particular than we even are today. That's why I think he got better results. I mean, he scanned people at the same time every single day to actually see what their bodies were doing, to see if that pattern was persistent and consistent in the morning or in the afternoon, because he knew that things were different and things were changing.
Right.
So BJ was a master, and BJ brought forth this technology an idea that this is what we needed to utilize to know when to adjust.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, my dad had the least NCM from Palmer, and he had he had the posture constant glide for the person to sit in. So it's the basis of the work I do. And it's the basis of so many things in chiropractic, and it's unfortunate more people don't get exposed to it. So I'm really grateful that in the art of the specific, that's one of the things that you guys emphasize, because I think it's vital for all chiropractors to utilize that. And it's always so interesting when people utilize that and then say, well, I don't know what it's reading, or I don't know what it's doing, I don't see it changing. Well, that tells you something. That doesn't mean don't use it.
Right, exactly. Pattern analysis is a very, very difficult thing. I mean, and it takes a lot of work, and it takes a lot of study, and it takes a lot of discipline because, I mean, like I said, we are humans. It's really easy for you to talk yourself into adjusting somebody when they have a severe migraine headache, and you know the pattern says, no, the nervous system is clear. We
Right.
still are human. So you have to really, really learn that stuff, build a solid foundation.
Right.
So like you said, that you can have certainty
Right.
in what you're saying and the decision that you're making. And that's why we emphasize it so much in the art of the specific.
Right. Now, can people be, because this I know is also a myth, successful practicing upper cervical and only addressing two vertebrae?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You know what? It's so amazing. We have 12 offices right now,
Right.
and they range all the way from Kauai to Boston. Like you said, we have an office in Colorado. We have an office in Utah. We have offices in the Bay Area. And it doesn't matter where the office is, the model works. And our doctors are successful. We practice in an all cash environment, zero insurance, and we only adjust two bones. And our doctors do extremely well. They reach the public, they take care of a lot of people, and they live the lives that they truly want to live. So, absolutely.
Right. Well, I personally find that the more you define your niche and more you refine your communication about what it is that you do and differentiate yourself, and that's not just in chiropractic, but usually in business in general,
Absolutely.
the better you do. So let's talk about that, because one of the things I know you and Sean Dill also, we'll just mention him briefly, but let's not talk about him too long.
Yeah, okay. I talk about him a lot, so thanks for keeping me on track.
And let's not digress to Andy Roberts either. Um, but in terms of business, what are some business books or resources that you recommend people if they want to be successful in chiropractic practice?
One of the books I started out reading when I was in school that Sean absolutely loves too, it's called The E-Myth, The Entrepreneurial Myth by Michael Gerber.
Right.
That book is fantastic. It's super short. You can easily get through it. But I think it's really important for us as chiropractors to realize that there is multiple hats that we wear when we're in practice. And so many chiropractors, I mean, we know unfortunately, the rate of failure for chiropractic is slightly high. And I think it's because chiropractors come out of school and the only thing they're doing is being the technician instead of being able to manage, being the technician, the manager, but most importantly, the entrepreneur. And if you can figure out how that looks in your life and figure out how to wear those different hats, you can absolutely be successful. And that book kind of walks you through some scenarios and I think gives you a little insight on what that looks like. So I love that book.
Good, good. And I agree with you. It's one of my favorites. And whenever I'm speaking to someone that I feel is doing big things in chiropractic, which you are one of, which I love seeing that, because I love seeing people are thinking beyond the four walls of their office, because we need that in chiropractic if chiropractic is going to thrive. What are some of the, when you're doing your office plus teaching plus helping other offices plus a trip to El Salvador, and you're doing all those things, what are some of the daily rituals that you utilize that help you, play on a bigger level?
Well, I don't sleep. No, I'm just kidding. And I'm going to add in there that I'm now planning a wedding, so that's always fun. But I would say, for me, it's about focusing in on my day. So every day that I wake up, I have a sheet that I do. I also do it with the two associate doctors in my office that lays out the 5 things that I want to accomplish, the word of the day that I'm focused on, the things that I want to happen in my life, in my relationships, in my office for the month. And so for me, it's more of a focus as soon as I wake up. instead of waking up and getting on Facebook or waking up and getting on Pinterest or Instagram or returning emails, I start with that. I start with focus because that sets the tone for my entire day. And for me, it's been about also really figuring out how to be as organized as possible to utilize my time best. So I am a person that just does things and does them right away. I don't think on it. If there's something that has to happen, we just execute it right away. Otherwise, things happen to get away from you.
Right.
And then lastly, one of the things I do for my business is it's another book that I love. It's Book Yourself Solid by Michael Port. And Sean teaches those concepts with his coaching clients, with the Doctors of the Specific and Black Diamond Club. And those concepts are identifying and really honing in with your target market and figuring out their wants and needs and desires, and then being able to market what you have to them. So by figuring all of that stuff out, it's allowed me to be really, really efficient in what I do and the marketing concepts I lay out, so that I'm not essentially rapid firing everywhere and I have time to do all of those other things.
Right. Which is so important.
Yeah.
And so when's the big day?
New Year's Eve this year, so my birthday.
No way.
Sean looked out. He only has one date to remember now.
Well,
I think he planned that.
That's a big deal. Actually, that's very funny because my parents' wedding anniversary is on New Year's Eve.
Oh, how great. See?
Yeah.
Great minds think alike. It's a great day to party.
Well, I got to tell you something. It's kind of funny. I mean, I was 19 years old, and my mom was in chiropractic school or had just graduated, and she was dating Donald Epstein, and they were engaged and met. We go to this wedding, and it's in this little house in Pennsylvania, and the ceremony is being performed by a French chiropractor, and the first thing, which was Arnaud Bernier, and I didn't know any of these people, and I'm like, is this legal? Like,
Yeah, what's really funny is we're going to get married by a chiropractor as well. You may know of him. His name is Dr. Borla. So
oh, yes.
It is very legal.
I do know of him. And I'm very glad that you're getting married by him now because he's advancing in his years.
Yeah, we had to catch it quick. We were going to get married in 2 years, but we thought, because of Jack, we want to, speed it up a little.
That's very wise. That's very wise, and I think that's smart. Now, where are some of the places this year, because you've got a busy calendar, what are some of the places people are going to see you this calendar year 2016, or can see you?
Well, next week I'm off to IFCO summits in Mexico.
I will see you there.
Oh, fantastic. I love it. That's going to be great. I'm going to be at the Berkshires this year.
I will see you too.
Of course, Mile High. How can we forget? I will see you there too.
Yeah.
I'm running around. I'm going to be doing a couple epochs as well.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So those are the last chances for people to connect with you before your name change or at your wedding.
Absolutely, right before I'm a dill. I'm sure there's other things on the calendar. That's mostly just the first half of the year. So.
There you go. So it's pretty busy.
Yeah.
Well, are there any last things that you want to share while you are on this podcast with our audience? Any last final thoughts towards excellence or mastery or being the best chiropractor a person can be?
I think for me, the one thing that has always helped me in being the best chiropractor I could be is building a foundation of the philosophy. And that's a platform. Whenever I'm on a platform, I speak about that all the time because I think that that's something that's not happening as much as it should. We go through school and we do get some philosophy and great, intertwined for the curriculum, but not the way that it was when BJ was teaching. I think that a lot of people that I know, a lot of people that I've talked to in all of these seminars, many of them have not even cracked the seam of a good book.
Right.
So in order to have the certainty that we've been talking about throughout this entire podcast, you have to have a solid foundation of the chiropractic philosophy and an understanding that chiropractic philosophy just is. It's not yours. It's not mine. It's not meant to be changed. It is what it is, and it's already been laid out for us for our understanding. So, starting with volume 14, reading through that book, Stevenson's chiropractic textbook, is a great place to begin that journey. But really devoting time to do that, because it will help you in your business. It will help you in chiropractic. It will help you in your adjusting skills of knowing when to adjust, when not to adjust. It will help you in your marketing and how you talk about chiropractic. And ultimately, it will help us do what we set out to do, which is get more people well. And I
Yes.
think if we all get on board with that, we can change the face of the chiropractic profession here in the United States so that it's not thought of the way that we talked about at the beginning of this podcast.
Yeah, and I know for you and your colleagues, that is a big part of everything that you do, if not the main part, is that and the reason why I put any energy into Mile High at all is because I really see that the profession needs a voice of bringing it back to our foundational values and principles, and there has to be a coming together to a degree, to a great degree, of the people on the vitalistic side of the fence to shift or change the direction of the ship if we're still going to call it chiropractic, and we've got to do that together on many levels. And so I'm grateful for the work that I see you all doing all the time. It makes me smile every time I see you guys, putting all the energy in, because I know the reason why that you have, and that's what's most important to me. So,
Absolutely.
well, thank you for your time. And I want you to know, in the liner notes and the show notes, everybody that's listening, you'll have contact information for Dr. Book, while she's still Dr. Book, and the specific centers and the Art of the Specific, as well as Mile High. And we're going to have references there for the books that she mentioned, so you know where to get them, so you can continue your chiropractic growth and journey. We look forward to seeing you at any of those events that she mentioned. And we really are running out of time, so we cannot talk about Liam Schubel, so we do not want to do about that. We just don't have time to do that. But I will look forward to seeing you at any of those events, especially Mile High August 18th to 21st, www.milehighchiro.org. Thank you for being on the podcast with us.
Thank you.
And thank you, everybody, for listening. Just click that subscribe button and post your feedback about this. And I look forward to seeing you around the chiropractic world, too.
I will see you soon, Danny. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Like our page on Facebook, www.facebook.com/Mile High Chiro.